he hits him again now. Rayon Fowler into the outside wall.
He's going to pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's going to get them all done with. What amazing.
Race lead to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is going to touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save.
Looks to the outside as Trunkgate goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
He's trying this contact though.
Slide left of the racetrack. Chris Renner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cutback here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Michael Schubert, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
Coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race.
Side by side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead. Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Aloma is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett Lowe. 4 wide at the stripe.
For all his work here on this outside line, neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out?
Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron, drag race to the line. It's so close to call.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going in the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no!
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Big battles on the horizon. The third round of the championship moves itself to a track which many people know for one very famous section of track. It is the corner that puts the heebie-jeebies into every sim racer and real racer as well. Everyone knows that they have to be at their best. It's 57 laps today. It is going to be very quickly ticked off lap after lap after lap, and qualifying currently underway in your iRacing Grand Prix Series broadcast, brought to you by SimSpeed TV here today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to everyone watching around the world. I'm Jake Sperry, joined alongside by Cam Dance in the commentary box for this one, as qualifying is currently underway, and they have 8 minutes or 2 laps to set a time, and it seems like everybody wants to try and be up there at the top. You cannot look, though, past the driver who's got number 1 on his vehicle, who's just coming out of pits right now. Clayton McLeod sets the fastest time on a 101.7, but Mark Usher currently the quickest, with Danilo Sanfilippo moving into second here, Cam.
Yeah, certainly. Sanfilippo has showed some pretty good pace so far over these past 2 weeks, and very quick time so far with a 102.1. But Clayton McLeod with a 101.7. I know there's been some drivers talking about breaking that 1 minute mark, but I'm not 100% sure if we're going to see it today. But nevertheless, still some very rapid pace around this very short circuit.
Yeah, there's a big difference in times, though. The slowest time we see at the moment is Jan Hoffman goes third. Slowest times from Ngoc Khan Win, who is in ninth position on a 104.0. So with the Vietnamese heritage, he's got to find himself just a little bit quicker, as Chris Owen has found the wall on his opening lap, and that was coming through turn number 4 out on circuit. No, that's turn 5 out on circuit. Gets the curb on the outside. Big tank slapper and in the wall. He's struggling to wake up. He woke up only about 15 minutes ago for this race. And if he's got to get himself alert and up together with it, he's lost a lap already, or he might just have to start from the back.
Yeah, certainly. And it's a very short circuit, so you don't really want to be wasting your laps away too many. And obviously that one extra lap isn't really going to help because it's going to give him one less lap to warm those tyres up and everything. But Danilo Sanfilippo has done his second lap, I believe. Yes, he has, and it's a 101.8, so still not actually the quickest out on track yet.
No, definitely not, and that's going to be very crucial. Juanmi Costa moves into 4th place on a 102.4, just 7/10 off as John Pat Kelly jumps him over into 5th, 102.4 of his own there on his opening lap. So some drivers looking to get their second laps on the board, some only looking for their first right now. Marco Sanfilippo goes fastest though, 101.644, and he's got another one to boot.
Certainly, Marco laying the gauntlet down as the better brother in this round this week with the 101.6, so very good pace here, but Usher straight to the top with the 103.
101.367. Mark Usher's flying. Jose Serpa has moved into 7th position on his qualifying time. Stefan Chantal up to 5th is the number 9 driver from Club Canada, and he's done very well. Here's Carl Streichars trying to get across the line, known more predominantly for his NASCAR ability, but he stays 22nd, but does improve his time. But one driver does go a little bit quicker. That's Blake Haswell on his first lap, 102.292. That's good enough for the top 10. But here's Marco Sanfilippo through the final corner, turn 11, the bottom of the bust, so to speak, the way that this track is designed. And across the line, he comes along, 101.450, couldn't improve enough.
Yeah, Usher clearly setting the benchmark for the time being, and he's still got one more up his sleeve as he comes out of the final corner now. We'll see whether he can indeed top the 101.3 this time, Brian. It's 101.2.
And Chris Owen moves to 3rd as well at the same time, 101.596, so there was a good time available. Here's Stefan Chantal, 101.873, stays in 6th, or moves to 6th position after that time, so he'll be on the 3rd row. Here's Blake Haswell, down in 10th position at the moment on a 102.2. Knows he needs exactly a 10th of a second to get past Serpa and a little bit more to get past Jan Hoffman. So we'll see what the time's going to be for Haswell as he crosses the line. 102 flat, good enough for 8th position, moved up past them too. Here's Tamashane though, making his first time. It's a 102.7. That's decent for Shane. He will have time to set another lap here. He's behind Ngoc Win in 15th place, so 16th for Tamashane at the moment, so that's going to be key. Robert Vita as well here, down in 24th, needing to find some time.
He certainly does on his second flying lap now, so we'll see if it's any representative time this time. Byes comes through the final 2 corners, getting right hard on the brakes, missing the apex a little bit there, so that'll cost him a slight amount of time, but coming across the line now, it will be no improvement.
Nope, no improvement. So Robert Vita starts 24th only. One driver has not set a lap time, and that is the world of Kinducci himself, Robert Plumley. So he will be going from the very, very back. Tamashane making his way out into turn 10. Look how quick they take that section of road. It is frightening how quickly they light up around this magical, magical circuit. It makes you remind yourself of the IndyCar races that go around here in the old kart events. 102.6 for Tamashane does improve time, but does not improve on the position. That is everybody done in qualifying, and this will be how the grid will line up. Mark Usher will be on pole position, 101.219, ahead of Marco Sanfilippo, his main title rival. Chris Owen starts 3rd with Clayton McLeod in 4th position, with Danilo Sanfilippo in 5th and Stefan Chantal in 6th. 7th position then will be Juanmi Costa and Blake Haswell in 8th place, with Jan Hoffman 9th and Jose Serpa rounding out the top 10.
Nicholas Shaw and Jan Strusinski on just outside the top 10 on row 6. John Pat Kelly and Adam Webb on row 7. And got Khan Juen on 15th, followed by Thomas Sen on 16th. 17th, Andrew Joyce and Eddie Villa on row 9, followed by Ray Griffin and Steve Gowrie on row 10.
Yes, and then you start looking back to those other drivers. David Cudmore starting 21st. Will Pullman in 22nd. Then is Jordan Sinibaldi in 23rd. Robert Vitas there starts 24th with Carl Streichars and Adam Novak there in 25th and 26th. The last driver will be Robert Plumley as the gridding procedure now starts. Just 2 minutes to get up onto the starting grid, or you start from that dreaded place, which is known as pit road, and pit road will be the last place some drivers will want for other drivers here. 57 laps, 57 opportunities of driving to go along. They are going to be really, really hard pressed to find that consistency around a track, which really does demand pinpoint accuracy with the dust, the dirt there on the outsides, and no margin for error. This is certainly not a Herman Tilke track. You're not going to find runoff areas the size of the state of California, especially here in Salinas. But here, when it comes to this racing, everyone knows that this is official racing. You've got to be on it from minute 1 to minute last. But they have to wait for the final few drivers. Chris Owen will be one of the last drivers to get up onto the grid, and it is a notoriously difficult run to turn number 1. The drivers on the left-hand side have the advantage. The track falls away to the left as they go in towards that section. Drivers on the left-hand side will have that ability to go out there and go forward. Everyone knows what they've got to be capable of doing, and that is finding a victory here today. But Mark Usher is a veteran at getting himself in position number 1 as the green flag drops. And let's get ourselves underway. Slow start from McLeod there in 4th position. He drops back and already gets the block. Usher's okay, but immediately Chris Owen up into 2nd position as they break into the Andretti hairpin for the first time. Little bit of dramas there in the middle to late of the pack as they go on through that section, but everyone fine for the moment. 2 wide, 3 wide, filtering through the early sections. The 2 San Filippo's together at the moment, and still some side-by-side going on for 5th place as McLeod tries to get past Juanmi Costa, but Juanmi Costa keeps it 2 wide to turn 5.
Yeah, Costa's going to challenge him for that position heading into turn number 5, but not going to happen, so McLeod will hold on to the position. But yeah, very solid start by Chris Owen, moving to 2nd.
Oh, Nicholas Short trying to get himself away through here. Jose Serpa runs slightly wide and is compromised all the way up the hill to the corkscrew for the very first time as drivers lock up and try and make their way through. They're all fine for the moment, side by side. They're a little bit further back as Serpa's going through. One vehicle's in the wall, though, at the moment, and I'm trying to see who that was. It's David Cudmore, who's found the wall up the hill on the run, and he's done that on his own there, and I think there is something that has gone very, very horribly wrong. Oh, he misses braking zone by a country.
Very unfortunate there, and it was actually another 2 drivers, Andrew Joyce and Robert Wett, who end up in the wall as well. So more drivers ending up in the wall at turn 5 in that little kink, which has been notorious for catching drivers out. But battle for 8th at the moment going on between Blake Haswell and Chantal, and Chantal with a bit of contact there.
Oh, well, Stefan Chantal had to be careful. He ran deep through turn number 1, tried to shut the door, didn't quite work, got a slide on, but able to save it. I don't think there was contact between those 2 drivers. So Chantal now with Tamara Gene behind, as 1 lap has already been scored complete then in this race. Replay up on screen, brought to you by Motum Simulations. And this is what we are looking at right now in the early goes. This is what happened to Robert Vita from Club Benelux, that being the Netherlands and co. And oh, he gets a huge tank slapper and he finds the wall on the outside as Marcus Sanfilippo. Is he off? Oh my goodness me, and he is, and that's down at the corkscrew there. Has he come together with his brother? No, he was behind. On the brakes he goes, into the left, he's heavy over the curb, and then just that transfer is so difficult in these Williams Toyota FW31s. He's gone around Cam, and that is disaster for the championship.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's not the most ideal situation that he wants to be in, and it's very easy to do in such high torque, high powered cars, but nevertheless, he should be able to recover a pretty decent result by the end of the race. Just needs to get his head down and get on with the job. Car in the pits. I do believe Ray Griffin and David Cudmore are also in the pit lane.
Yep, as well as Robert Vita down in there as well. So some drivers deciding it's time for them to come in. Ray Griffoen was one of them at the moment. Gap at the front, up over a second now here as Chris Owen struggles to stay with Mark Usher in the early goings of this race. But this is something that we saw at Watkins Glen 1 week ago. Mark Usher very strong in the early goings, but it's when it gets a little bit later where all the drama starts to come in. This track not known for being an overtaker, especially in these style of vehicles, which are incredibly quick, and they do not have that ability to go up to the high gears. Edu Villa's going to find this out, because here's Jordan Sinibaldi trying to find a way through in their little scrap, but Sinibaldi nowhere close enough to make that move for the time being.
Yeah, certainly not. And that is one thing about this track. With it being so tight and twisty, there is a lot of aero wash, so makes passing quite difficult. But I believe Super has had a moment.
Yeah, it does look like that way, as Jose Serpa actually has lost quite a bit of time potentially there as we look at the gap between himself and Jan Hoffman. That gap was 0.4 of a second, and Hoffman now has lost half a second in that opening section, mainly down to turn 3 where he missed the apex. So here is the issue he's got. Serpa, though, trying to charge, trying to get to Nicholas Short and make the move down the inside, but not close enough up the hill. Down the hill you go. You've got to be careful through that section of track at the corkscrew. It's very easy to get a slowdown penalty there, Cam. When you've only got 17 incidents across 57 laps, you know that you can only afford a slight off once every 3 or 4 laps.
Yes, certainly. It makes it very, very challenging, especially when you're trying to push as hard as you are in these cars. But it's on for second between Chris Owen and Sanfilippo, and Owen's dropped back quite a bit from Mark and he's possibly made a mistake somewhere.
Well, he did have the fastest lap of the race last time, but the time before last, I should say. That's how quick laps go around this place. But then he's all of a sudden gone once again 103.8, 0.6 of a second off the pace. The consistency value not there. And here's Danilo Sanfilippo trying to prove to everybody that he is very much not the Ralf Schumacher compared to Marco Sanfilippo's Michael as they go on the brakes into the left-right chicane once again. And every time I look at that section, it's always a lockup from Chris Owen, who is very much a lot heavier on the brakes as he goes through that stretch of track. So he's got to make sure that he's pretty much got to be careful about locking up those tyres. It can happen so quickly around this place that you run yourself into trouble. But again, within a few tenths of a second, but again, no run really on the run towards turn number 2 down to the Mario Andretti hairpin. He hits the brakes, into the left they go, and this is all about setup. You are trying to make moves around this place, maybe 3, 4, 5 laps in advance.
Yeah, you can definitely see Sanfilippo's trying as hard as he can to try and set up a move. You can just see he's so much later on the brakes compared to Chris Owen, but just no avail in the end on the exit.
Yeah, nothing there as he tries to make pushes forward. Clayton McLeod's on the back of this train as well. He's in 4th place. Remember, he started from 4th, didn't have the best getaway off the line, but he's managed to gather it back into that position as he's having a very solid race of things at this point in time. Already Robert Vita already classified as out with David Cudmore. Ray Griffoen is 1 lap down and is the first driver a lap down around this place at the moment. It could go a little better for him, but there is a long way to go in this race. It is worth reminding viewers here, ladies and gentlemen, that there is 1 pit stop required. They have to pit for fuel at a stage in this race. They reckon they can get to about lap 35 or so in this race at the absolute limit, and that's only a rough estimate, but they know they can go late, they can drive it late, but what they also have to remember is traffic around this place, especially with 27 drivers now down to 25, is going to be massive around a 1 minute long track.
Yeah, certainly. It's going to be really about timing and making it held up by traffic.
Yep, and Ray Griffoen has gone off down at turn number 6 out on track. So he's gone through the left, the very difficult left. Replay on screen, 90 degrees, he's kept it out of the wall, but now he is in a horrible position as he is trying to just park it off and pretty much wait for all the traffic to go through. As you see on screen, he's going to head through this left-hander right here, Ray Griffoen right now, and then he's going to come up the hill. This is going to be the corner where the issues happen, and there is that very difficult curb on the inside, and he just goes round there. It's so very easy to do, Cam.
It certainly is, especially with such a high-low corner and heading it inside is really detrimental, but I've seen Hoffman actually make a move on Serpa, who's made a mistake at the corkscrew and run a bit deep, so slow down there for him, unfortunately, is now under pressure from Chantal.
Yeah, and Chantal, remember, started in 6th position and went backwards off of the start. He wants to try and move up forward. He's back into 10th place right now, and he needs to find a little bit more in terms of the way that this race is going to go. We've also got to keep an eye out in the next couple of laps here, Cam, on the recovery driver Marco Sanfilippo, who is running a 105 that last time by, which was not ideal for the pace that he wants to go at, but he knows that there is more pace available to him if he can find it. But positions have been changing, and they have been changing quick.
Yes, certainly they have been, and there's just been quite a few mistakes happening from numerous drivers throughout the field in different various places, and it's interesting to see that there's so many happening, but like we said, the track's so narrow and there's very little room for error, so it doesn't come surprise that people are losing positions over small mistakes.
Yes, and of course, when this track is one of the key punishers of small mistakes, you know that you've got to be pretty much on it. And this also goes down to philosophy as well, Cam, because this is one of the few tracks in iRacing that you can truly and honestly say every driver should know like the back of their hand. It is one of the free tracks that it has been for years. It's one of the basics. It's one of the tracks you learn from rookie masters all the way up. You do not run yourself into too many troubles around here. Every driver should know how to run Laguna Seca. It's pretty much DNA at this point.
Yes, certainly. Everybody's run it at some point in their career, whether it be rookies or even further down the track. So, yeah, it's a reasonably well-known sector for almost all these drivers, but nevertheless, still makes it very, very difficult, and you start to learn that you cannot make mistakes, like you said.
No, you definitely cannot make mistakes. The battle is on, though, for 6th and 7th position right now. This is Blake Haswell, who's up 2 places so far in this race. Nicholas Short, though, number 2 rated in iRating. He was number 1 last week, but he's lost out a little bit to Mark Usher. He knows that he wants to get up into 6th place. The only way he can do that, though, is by making this overtake on Blake Haswell, but very much he is not close enough. Half a tenth slower that last time by the dirty air, proving massive, especially in that opening sector with those 90-degree up to 100-degree right-hand bends. That's very difficult. A lot of corners which rely on that mid-pace speed of the vehicles, and it makes it very, very tough to get close.
Yeah, it certainly does. And this is going to be one of the things that is going to be quite interesting to see when pit stops start to happen. Is going to start to see drivers actually lose out a little bit in terms of setup, because they're going to be more set up for traffic than actual open air, which could possibly see some spins or some errors from various drivers, just primarily due to the fact that they're running so much more downforce.
Yeah, and you can see just how close Nicholas Short is through the final corner. He might have a chance. Mistake behind as well for Jan Hoffman, who gets too heavy over the curb. He'll be under pressure now from Jose Serpa, but here comes Short, looking at the inside. Oh, he thought about it once, thought about it twice on the brakes there down to turn 1. Door left open, though, through the hairpin, and here's another chance as he tries to get through around the outside of turn 3 to get this one done. Oh, and he does it as well. That's a wonderful move from Nicholas Short. Hoffman survives behind, but that is wonderful overtaking.
Yes. Right around the outside of Blake Haswell. Fantastic move, but we've got a replay of something else happening on track next to Motor Simulation.
Oh, that's Tamashane, who's gone for a complete Romain Grosjean 360, and the drivers around him have done very well to avoid Tamashane, who is up on a fantastic run in the early stages going through this race, but he has dropped back a number of places. We're back live. Look at Stefan Chantal and Jose Serpa at the moment. Both of them swarming as they had to get past. Oh, the spun lap traffic there. Adam Novak's in the wall at the corkscrew. Well, we'll stay live with this. He gets himself going. Oh, be careful, as Jordan Sinibaldi has to make a decision of which way he goes, but Adam Novak is pretty much going to be walking wounded and pretty much walking to a pit stop.
Yeah, I'd say so after that moment that he's had, unfortunately. But this battle for the positions just inside the top 10, 8th, 9th, 10th is really starting to heat up. Chantal probably the quicker of the 3 drivers at the moment, and really is starting to put pressure on Jose Serpa.
He certainly is, and Jose Serpa knows how to deal with pressure very well. At the opening round at Imola, he proved that he could run very well, and in fact got himself up onto the podium in that first race, so he knows how to be quick But we'll see how this goes on the brakes up into the corkscrew once again. They're on lap 12 here of 57 around this track at this WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca circuit as they go on through. As for the time being, it's another case of Chantal running wide there through turn 10 and then turn 11. He's just really strong on the brakes through that corner, but not able to get anywhere close enough for what he needs to be doing. And it is worth noting around this track as well, the more that drivers do run off and do run wide around here, Cam, that dirt is going to be brought up onto the surface by the iRacing dynamic track, and you can see it clear as day. It makes life difficult. Marco Sanfilippo's running to the back of Novak.
Yeah, he certainly has. That's really unfortunate that's actually happened, and really out of the blue. I think Marco was expecting him to slow up there on the exit of the corner, and that's really unfortunate. It's going to have damage to his front wing, clearly, by the looks of it.
It looked like maybe Novak was trying to angle to pit lane or had that look of going to pit lane, and Marco Sanfilippo was just almost faked out there in that situation. In fact, Ray Griffoen, I think, has gone for another spin. I think that's his retirement here today. And in fact, yes, it is. He spun down at turn 10. I think he's going to pull that over and say, my day is done. I can't find any more pace about that. But the lap traffic now starting to become a factor in the mid to late of the field right now. So this is going to be really difficult for these drivers. It's a tight track as well in comparison to a lot of Formula One circuits, which were a lot wider. So that does make life just a little bit tougher as Adam Webb close to John Pat Kelly. He's not close enough, but there's also Tamas Jane on the recovery trying to get past Steve Gajori.
Yeah, Tamas Jane really trying to recover here after that earlier spin on Steve Gajori and putting a lot of pressure on. Has done for the past few laps, but Adam Webb just ahead has been pressuring John Pat Kelly as well for the past number of laps. But again, just can't find a way by, and he's off and in the gravel a little bit there.
Oh, Plumley's around. He's found the wall down at the corkscrew. He was in the middle being lap traffic as he went through, so he's done it all on his own. I'm just wanting to see if the rejoin's okay. He's still waiting to go. He's got nothing to try and get himself there going. He finally lights it up, but he's done a full 180 again, and that's not what he would be looking for. And this is pretty much a case of how would you put this, Cam? I would say it's a case of 1,000 pricks of the needle.
Yeah, it certainly is. The waiting time is just so painful when you're a driver, and it's such a struggle as well to try and spin the car around here because it's a blind corner and there's just no way of knowing where the cars are and when they're coming. And someone else has spun around with them. It's Will Pullman.
Yeah, it is Will Pullman. So Robert Plumley has spent the best part of a minute trying to get going up at the corkscrew, and this was the issue. He was trying to turn it up the hill, and you have to remember, at the corkscrew, it's like going through 11 stories plus at that section of road. It is a massive steep hill to go through. Imagine trying to start your car from stationary trying to get up that. It's going to be incredibly tough, and very much he has lost a whole lap in terms of where he was trying to go. Blake Haswell, though, has lost the position to Nicholas Short a very long time ago. We saw that happen, but now Haswell's looking backwards again because Jan Hoffman is trying to find a way through.
Yeah, Hoffman's had some very good pace in these last few laps against the car of Haswell, and you can see right on the back end of Haswell, but just not quite able to get the run. It is Hoffman's, but still showing some very strong potential at setting up a move here at some point.
Well, you can see he just gets it a little bit squirrely out of turn 2 there, does Hoffman, so the chance goes away. Serpa and Chantal on the back of this 4-car train going on for 7th place. In terms of what's going on, though, at the front of the field, Mark Usher is absolutely romping away at the moment in this race. His margin right now is 4.3 seconds over Chris Owen in second, who he himself did have a 1.3 second margin over Danilo Sanfilippo, but that looks a little bit less than that at this point in time as they move forward. You can see that gap 9/10 of a second, so Danilo is flying. In fact, now it's 7/10 of a second. So much is he pushing, and there's of course that traffic as Joyce comes through, and here is Clayton McLeod, and what exactly has happened to him? He's dropped a number of places. He's lost 2 spots, in fact, as he's gone through, and that was down at the corkscrew. Oh, he's done well to keep it out of the tyres all on his own. Vehicle just snaps left.
Yeah, he did very well to now actually end up in the wall. He was very close to it, but just looked like he pinched the left front, and then as he went to get back on, he unloaded it super.
He's through. He's got through on Jan Hoffman, who looked like he was going to attack Blake Haswell. So Jose Serpa very much the sleeping snake in the grass, so to speak, just very much pounced on his prey and got it done without any real fuss at all. That's the easiest move I've seen this race so far.
It certainly is, and that was actually very strange because Hoffmanson hasn't really encountered any traffic or anything, so not quite sure why there's been a checkup there.
Well, Stefan Chantal's come into the pits to make his stop early as well, and we believe we got the overtake for you on screen. So here's Jose Serpa. He dives to the inside as Mark Usher goes purple out on track, and there you can see it's the easiest move in the world. Serpa just had the inside line, a chance on the exit, but it was well blocked there, and that was the case to be made of how that one stayed the way it did. Second and third, though, on right now. Danilo Sanfilippo, Chris Owen, still going at it, 5 seconds off your race leader, who's going quicker than ever, Mark Usher, at the front of the field. So we'll see what these drivers can do. Danilo Sanfilippo looking like he's trying to get up, get aggressive, get into that range where he can go out there and attack. And this is another key fact about this circuit as well, Cam. Just these drivers know they've got to be absolutely on it here today. That pit stop window, because this track is so short, is a lot wider than it would be at other circuits.
It certainly is, so they're really going to have to make sure that they time it well, don't get held up by traffic, don't put themselves in traffic. And a mistake from Owen.
Oh, he got a slide on, but Danilo Sanfilippo couldn't capitalise there off of the final corner. Now here's the chance as they head to turn 2. There's the kink of 1, and into the Andretti hairpin they come along. Owen can't shut the door through that section. Contact between them, but they keep it together. They've got 11 seconds even behind to Juanmi Costa in 4th place, but they keep it together. Owen still holds that place, but Danilo very much, he's bigger than the stomach.
Yes, certainly. He's trying everything he possibly can to try and find a way by, but just couldn't get it done at the end of the day there on that lap. But certainly showing some very good potential, and if he can keep this pace up, he should be able to do it reasonably easily.
Yes, and this is good. Yeah, and I believe Nicholas Short may have got this one done on Juanmi Costa. And what has happened then to Juanmi? Oh, there was contact between them, I think, into turn 5. So Nicholas Short trying to dive down the inside. He gets there, and the door. Well, Juanmi Costa tried to shut it, but it was just the case to be made there at that point, Cam, that Nicholas Short was already there and threw in the horse and bolted.
Yeah, he certainly threw it up there as late as he possibly could, and really did catch Costa by surprise, I reckon. So, yeah, really aggressive move and good move there by Nicholas Short to move up inside that top 4 position.
Yeah, and we're just getting another look at it right now, brought to you by Motum Simulation. You can see Danny inside, and then Juanmi Costa trying to get on the racing line. Was not expecting the move there, but that's where it happened, and now he's got to look at the train he is holding up. Haswell and Hoffman and Serpa and McLeod on the back of it as well. So Juanmi Costa has got to be pretty much on it right now at this point in the race. We do have other battles going on. Carl Streichar starts to pull away from Nyok Khan Win at this point in time, so there's not much that can be done there in terms of that scrap. Shane still stuck behind Gayori, who started to pull away a little bit, and Jan Stratinsky, we haven't talked about him much today. He had a horror show 1 week ago. He started to be reeled in by John Pat Kelly here for the top 10.
Yeah, John Pat Kelly has had some really good pace against Stratinsky in these last few laps, and he's actually pulled away from Adam Webb behind as well, as there's a car in front of him, Adam Novak, and that's contact.
It is contact, and it's a lot of contact. It's caused pandemonium down at that section. So John Pat Kelly goes through. Tamas Shane got through easily. Gayori making a way by as well, but that's how easy it happens here. And there was the spin. There's the replay. Novak, who very much collides hard there with John Pat Kelly down that section. It's so easy to run wide when you're traffic and you're scared of drivers in front of you, behind you, every which way. It does make life incredibly difficult for these drivers. They try and make progress. So there's the instant that happens, and ultimately it does shake up the top 10 a little bit. Tamas Shane now up into 12th. Adam Webb finds himself in 11th.
Certainly shaking up those few positions just inside and outside of the top 10. So really unfortunate for John Pat Kelly there, as he's actually doing so well and on to gain another position on Jan Strutinsky if he could have kept the pace up.
Yeah, he certainly could have done, but of course there's a long time to go here in this race still. They could still find positions if they get the pace up, which they know they have that capability of doing here today, as Novak pretty much is going to see day and done written up in the headlights as he finds himself on that pit lane. Of course, these cars don't have headlights, so he will find them lit up somewhere or other, I think is the right way to put it. But still, that battle going on for fifth is absolutely magnificent at this moment in time. Look at this, Juan Costa under pressure. This is Clayton McLeod trying to find a way by. Serpa's there, Hoffman's there, Haswell is there as well as they go through up through turn 6. Got to be careful about running wide through that section. There's not much room if you get it wrong, and on the brakes into the corkscrew they come along once again, once more. No chance of a move being made as they're immediately back on the power through turn 9.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, they're all trying to get to that power. It's quicker than the other driver ahead of them. So, but just no avail at the moment. Tyres are starting to get a bit old as well. So we'll start to see some possible mistakes from drivers and the fuel coming out as well. So cars are getting lighter, cars are getting quicker, but also harder to drive.
They certainly are, as some drivers find themselves a lap down. John Pat Kelly's come out of pit road after his one stop. And what's very interesting in front of Juan Costa right now is that it is for lapped traffic and position. Stefan Chantal, who's struggling, a 106 that last time by from him. So these aren't good times. I think Chantal is really struggling right now in terms of his race. There goes Juan Costa straight around. Does he avoid everyone? Somehow he does. Jose Serpa got away with it and has stolen the position off of McLeod.
Yeah, McLeod nearly ended up making contact. They're very lucky to actually not make any contact, but Serpa taking advantage of the mistake from Costa and also McLeod running off. So great heads-up driving there by Serpa to getting 2 for 1.
Yeah, 2 for 1, and Clayton McLeod thought Christmas came early, but suddenly that Christmas present got stolen by Jose Serpa, who very much got the better Christmas present there in terms of the family. So Clayton McLeod will have to try and get by another place all over again out on track. Danilo Sanfilippo, though, almost had a run into turn number 1. In fact, they were side by side through turn 2 and towards turn 3, but Owen again on the inside, able to cover off that move. Danilo Sanfilippo, that's the closest he's been in about 7 laps.
Yeah, Sanfilippo trying everything he possibly can. A massive amount of time quicker than the car of Chris Owen, nearly a second. So he's definitely got some pace under that car. It has Filippo, who's actually just 0.2 slower than Mark Usher. So your move will happen at some point, but you'll start to have to think about pitting so you can get some nice clean air and get out of traffic.
Yeah, and that's going to be the key, is when can you pit and where can you pit effectively? It's a very spread field at the moment in the mid to lower positions. You definitely don't want to be pitting and finding yourself in a train which is very, very aggressively battling out on track, which you would find in positions 5, 6, 7, 8 out on the road at the moment. So those are going to be the worries. Battle right down the bottom of the field, though. Marco Sanfilippo struggling to stay with Jordan Sinibaldi this lap, trying to get there, was close enough, but he's going to find out very soon in the next couple of moments or so, I'd say in the next couple of laps, that Mark Usher's going to be trying to lap his main title challenger at the moment.
Marco is not having the best of races at the moment in this one, and he's still carrying on with that damaged front wing as well. I'm surprised he hasn't pitted yet to possibly repair that or try get some nice clean air. So not doing it too great at the moment, but he'll certainly be trying to recover some form of points regardless.
Oh, off. That is Will Pullman, who was a lap down. I think he was just trying to, he's had a moment on his own and then effectively he's had to let everyone go. He blocks it up, tries to ease it down the hill at about 20 k's. He finally gets himself going again, but that is some great heads-up driving from lap traffic as he lets Juan Costa go.
Yeah, certainly did. That was not too bad of a job there to let Costa by, but nevertheless there is that battle still going on between Serpa, McLeod, and also Hoffman's, and Hoffman's slightly quicker that last time by to McLeod, so move possibly incoming in a few laps' time.
It certainly is, but we're now starting to hit that range at the moment, Cam, where drivers are thinking about pit stops and when is the right time to dive down in and make that decision to go out there and stop out on the road. And look at this, though, for the race lead, because Mark Usher goes by Marco Sanfilippo and puts him 1 lap down in this race. And if that's not a sign of intent from Mark Usher, I'm not quite sure what is. Battle for second still on the road, but that gap, again, 0.6 of a second seems to be the holding pattern. You sort of sometimes have to look at this in terms of a race and say, well, maybe I sit behind for a few laps. I make sure that my engine is staying cool. Remember, this track temp today, 38 degrees, is pretty average to hot, I think would be the right way to say it. I think drivers are waiting for a couple of laps before they go out there and attack again.
Yes, certainly. They're probably going to find that they're going to react to what others are doing around them, because you don't want to be the one that blinks first, and you don't want to be the last one that blinks as well, especially around this track where it's been quite a battle against traffic and making sure you're not getting held up too much.
Giori's gone around final corner. He was right behind Tamashane as he was going through. Gets the curb, tries to put the power down, but you can't put it down that early, especially at the dusty part, as he gets to the inside and suddenly finds himself behind the likes of Edu Villa and co. And now he's behind, 1 lap down, Robert Plumley now looking behind. He's got Kyle Streichars maybe thinking about, can I get through? I'm already up 10 places, is the driver in 15th place.
Yes, certainly. Streichars is really trying to close this gap down to Giori and possibly set up a move at some point. That mistake's gonna have hurt Giori's tyres as well from locking them up. But Chris Owen with the fastest lap of the race so far.
Yeah, that's a 102.4 there from Chris Owen. So that has come from relative nowhere in terms of the way this race has been. And now they're starting to hit the big traffic right now. Usher has himself to get past both Jordan Sinibaldi and Nyotkan Win out on track, which is going to be tough, but into the pits comes Sinibaldi to make life just a little bit easier. Also coming in at the same time is going to be Steve Giori, and it's such a tough pit lane as well to get right here, because you've got almost to do a 180-degree turn as you're hitting the brakes to get down onto the lane.
Yes, certainly. It's one of the tougher ones, and it's nearly a 90-degree right-hander, or nearly actually 180, so it's very, very tight. And Chris Owen, again, with the fastest lap of the race, so some incredible pace late on here.
I think he's just woken up here, Cam. I think that he's probably just had the morning coffee come in, and suddenly he's worked out, oh, we're 30 laps into a race, and I'm 7 seconds behind the leader. I might as well get going.
That probably is the case. He has been mentioning that he has been struggling to wake up a bit in these early morning processions here for where he is in Australia. So, but nevertheless, he's definitely put the hammer down and getting on with the job regardless. So we'll see if he can try close that gap down to Mark Usher, who's been dealing with quite a bit of traffic recently. So we'll be helping him for sure.
Yep, it certainly will. Look at Jose Serpa right now. Traffic is being his best friend. Giori's fresh out of pit lane, and McLeod gets through down on the inside, so doesn't get held up too badly as they go onto the brakes into that magical corkscrew. And another more time has been taken out there. That's a 102.5 from Chris Owen. Mark Usher on a 103.1, 0.6 of a second. So Usher's not being closed in by little bits. He's being closed by chunks at the moment, and this might be the case where maybe Mark Usher's got to dive down in, as one driver who is down on the lane and coming out right now is Nyotkan Win, who is going to be straight off and away.
Yeah, certainly is going to be off and away after his pit stop, hitting a few cones as well that may possibly have damaged his front wing, although he might have got away with it. We'll have to wait and see, but regardless, it's going to be something that Mark Usher is going to have to think about at some point with all this traffic that's been coming into play, is getting that pit stop out of the way, but goes by once again.
Yep, Jan Hoffman coming out of the pits then. He's got his one stop pretty much done and dusted. In comes Kyle Streichars then to make his stop also, so he's going to dive down onto the lane. Now, this is going to be key for this mid-pack scrap. Jan Hoffman, the first of the real challengers of Serpa and McLeod, to come in, and Serpa runs wide, and McLeod gets a freebie.
It certainly does, and that was a really, really simple move there for McLeod.
Oh, no,
just taking advantage of Serpa's mistake. Oh, no.
And Serpa into the back of the rolling roadblock, which had been, I believe, what was Novak, and I believe that Novak may have just hit 25 incidents.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if he has. He hasn't been having that good of a run today and has been making a few errors. So really unfortunate there for Serpa and Nowak. But Strystad is out, so we'll see if he can possibly gain anything out of this.
Well, this is going to be key because remember, Hoffman dived down onto the lane, and that is going to be costing in terms of time. So Serpa struggling there with everything. He's lost position to Haswell. The front nose cone is completely off at the moment as Chris Owen decides it's time, dives down onto the lane, releases Danilo Sanfilippo away in this race. Mark Usher's stayed out, but he's got a pace increase there, 102.5. That last time by matched for the pair of them as they went through. So keep an eye out on these stops. Lap 31, Chris Owen becomes the first of the real leading contingency to come in.
He does, and he has also released Sanfilippo as well, who has done a slightly quicker time than Mark Usher as well. So possibly going to see Sanfilippo take advantage of this pit stop and this clean air that he's going to have.
Yep, that could be the case. So Chris Owen gets himself pretty much off and away without any real dramas as he goes through ahead of Wami Costa, ahead of Carl Streicher. Oh, huge moment. No, second moment there. Wami Costa, tyres were heated up as he tried to get the power down. He slid it through the exit of 2, got it together, then put the power down. The car just said, nope, torque is the thing. We're going around.
Yeah, certainly unfortunate for Costa there to end up with that mistake, and that's going to hurt him quite a bit. But Usher with the fastest lap of the race now, so he's put the hammer down, and now everybody's trading fastest lap.
Everyone certainly is at the moment. Stratinsky and Pullman coming out of pit lane. Danilo Sanfilippo 7.7 seconds off of Mark Usher at the moment as everyone goes through. Pullman runs wide off the pit exit. This is not what Stratinsky wants. He's a lap down in 12th place now at the moment as he tries to run his race. Blake Haswell decides to dive down onto the lane. He was in 5th place at the time.
Yeah, Haswell coming into pit lane to get that pit stop out of the way. Didn't have any traffic on that last lap or the lap before, so should be gaining a little bit here with that clean air, but there goes Sanfilippo, so we're going to possibly see him drop down the order a little bit here.
Well, look at Jan Hoffman. This is going to be the key scrap. So Hoffman right now trying to get himself going, but here's Blake Haswell. He'll be up on the power. Hoffman's going to be trying to scream on by at 280 Ks on the brakes into turn number 1. It's going to be tight here. It's a much narrower line for Blake Haswell, but on the power earlier here will be Hoffman. This is going to be close here into turn number 3. Door was not shut, but it didn't need to be through that section. Wide goes Haswell, and Hoffman now has to make the move. Haswell's jumped him.
Yeah, a good move by Haswell to end up jumping Hoffman, but Hoffman's going to have warm tyres, so he should be able to try and make it work, but you can just see a little bit of hero push there, causing Hoffman to run a bit wide.
Yep, just a little bit, and that's going to be the toughness that Jan Hoffman's going to be dealing with right now. He's got to find a way to get through. On the brakes they go, into the left-right chicane of the corkscrew, and with the race leader behind, looking to try and put them a lap down. This is a tough place to be for Mark Usher. I'd pit now if I was him. I don't want anything to do with this scrap between these two. And you know what? On cue, Mark Usher, the race leader, decides it's time to come down onto the lane.
Good timing for Usher to come on down, and Sanfilippo will follow suit as well. Ran a little bit wide there on the exit of the second last corner, but regardless, got the thing stopped and into pit lane. So see what the difference is. Owen's coming just up towards the corkscrew now, so be quite fascinating to see where he ends up coming out.
That's going to be key. Clayton McLeod, though, also dives down to the lane. So top 3 all down on pit road. Usher immediately goes. He's got a massive gap as he gets himself out. And here's Danilo Sanfilippo now, looking like he's going to try and get himself out and away. Now here he goes as he goes through, as he looks to get himself out and away. Chris Owen, though, just for reference, coming through now. This is going to be tight between these two, I reckon. It may just be Danilo Sanfilippo as they go through this section. But again, Chris Owen will have the power off of the exit here to get it going. Has he got enough? Just enough. That is pinpoint. He's timed that to perfection as Chris Owen.
He certainly has. Barely enough to get ahead of Sanfilippo, but Sanfilippo's going to have slightly new tyres now than Owen, who's been pushing quite hard for the last few laps to try and build a gap or stay ahead of Sanfilippo. So we'll see whether by the end of the race this is going to have any impact, but regardless, great job by Owen to end up staying second.
Well, Mark Usher's just had a massive pit stop, and he has done incredibly well as we look at this battle. 8th and 9th still Blake Haswell and Jan Hoffman out on track, and this is going to be a huge battle between these two to see who can pick up those positions. A couple of drivers, I do believe, will need to come down and make some stops at the moment as they go through. So they've got to be careful about the way they go through, as we believe that it's Webb at the moment who's just got through on Stefan Chantal, who's a lap down, but Clayton McLeod is trying to close down in on this. Of course, these drivers do need to make a stop, and Chantal just about gets out of the way there.
Yeah, certainly not having the best of a race is Chantal, unfortunately, with that mistake earlier on. But regardless, getting it out of the way nicely, doing the sportsmanlike thing against his competitors. But yeah, McLeod really trying to close this gap down to Webb at the moment, and seems to be able to do it reasonably well for the time being, but just struggling a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit, and that very much says all you need to know about this. Of course, some drivers are still yet to make their stops. Drivers are desperately needing to, for those who are very much later in the field. So we'll see how that all plays out for it at the moment. I am surprised with a couple of drivers who've been doing really well out here today and have put some really nice times in. Someone who has is Nicholas Short, who currently finds himself probably net fourth here in this race, with Juan Costa due to make a stop in the not too distant future, I do believe, and that is correct. So that would put Short net fourth, and he has just quietly worked away as Nicholas Short after his amazing around the outside move. Fourth from starting 11th, you would have to say hats off as Adam Webb, I do believe, is down on the lane.
Yes, so he will be doing his pit stop now. And Costa is indeed the last car to pit now. So Nicholas Short will be, yeah, he's actually made a mistake.
Wow. So Hoffman and co making mistakes. Nicholas Short there with no front wing. So that's huge in terms of what's happened to him. How on earth he goes straight into the tyres, try to put the power down, and the car just snaps on him with the torque on the shift up. And that is pretty much a case of I'm going to have to openly speak up and apologise, because that is a well-founded curse.
Yeah, it certainly is. Unfortunately, timing that's so bad. But nevertheless, that's actually held up Black as well a little bit, and it's caused Hoffman to close that gap right up now. But that's what's actually pulled away a little bit after ending up getting held up by the car of Nicholas Short as well.
Yeah, and well, Short now has to come down in and make a stop and get a new front wing on that vehicle. And if he has any suspension damage, that could spell the end here in vehicles which are pretty much more fragile than a China plate on a very, very difficult, very stormy night on a boat.
It certainly is one of those things about this track and car is that if you hit any walls, it's usually going to result in some form of suspension damage, and it looks like Short might just get away with this cut up on the jacks, and he's away, so no suspension damage by the looks of it, luckily.
This is Adam Webb. He just come out of pit road here as he goes through the corkscrew, loses it on the inside, does bend the front wing slightly as he goes through, and he's looking like he's made a much better job of that than Robert Plumley did earlier on in this race, so he's able to get himself out going as they go through. Oh, there's a spinner. It's Blake Haswell. Haswell's off of the corkscrew then, and he's done it all on his own.
He certainly has. He's just locked the rears by the looks of it and just ended up going for a slow, lazy half spin, unfortunately, and that's cost him one position for the time being. But yeah, really unfortunately for Haswell, he's doing so well.
He was doing incredibly well in this race, but ultimately that spin has cost him a position, and it will not cost him 2 places overall in terms of the way that this one is run. So he'll be happy in the fact that he still has that opportunity to go out there and attack the remainder of this race, but it's a long road to get back to Jan Hoffman. He's already 3 seconds adrift at this place. Still on, though, for 2nd and 3rd positions, but not as close as it was once, because Chris Owen is starting to just knock through the laps as he looks to try and just break away as they go through. 103.6 that last time by from him as he goes through, so he's doing a really good job of things right now, as well as Juan Costa, who is still going out there in 4th place. He's gone 40 laps without needing to come down in for fuel. He is really pushing the limit of fairy dust when it comes to the way that he's been running.
You certainly start to be running on fumes in a very short while. It's been quite a long run that he's been out there for with 40 laps, and there's 17 to go, so starting to run out of laps to do a pit stop, and probably starting to run out of fuel as well.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big disaster for him if he does run out of fuel here in this race, but he knows what he's got. He'll probably be looking at his relative and his data and saying, okay, you need to pit. He'll have his spotter telling him, his mandatory iRacing spotter telling him, okay, you need to pit at X time to come down in, make that stop, get back going again with the fuel numbers that are available here in this race. So we'll see if Juan Costa decides now. No, he still doesn't. Will Pullman there blocking the pit lane ever so slightly for him. So even if he wanted to dive down in, he'd have had to have braked incredibly hard if he wanted to go through. Worth also noting at this point, only 9 drivers right now on the leading lap, and it's soon going to be 8.
Yeah, certainly. That's not a lot of drivers on the lead lap, so or at this stage. Although, with it being such a short lap and Mark Usher having incredibly quick pace, it comes as no surprise, as well as drivers who have made mistakes as well. So, yeah, it doesn't really surprise me that there's so many drivers a lap down.
Yeah, it's a very short circuit, so you'd see drivers being a lap down. It's exacerbated in terms of the pace around here today. We're about to start lap 42 here of 57, just 16 laps to go here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna, Seca, and second and third still close right now, and traffic a huge factor right now. Off to the side pulls Tamashane as they go past him. Danilo Sanfilippo trying to get by Chris Owen here for second position. Remember, Chris Owen has had a poor start to the season, has effectively used both his drop rounds.
Yeah, he certainly has, and he's really going to be wanting to try and make up for his drop rounds so far in this weekend. If he can hold on to second place, or even if he settles for third place, it's still going to be a solid bag of points that he comes away with. So he'll be pushing as hard as he possibly can and not overdriving the car to come away with a podium result here.
Yeah, and that podium result could be crucial at this point in time, as I keep another little eye out on Juan Costa. He's still going, by the way, in 4th place, and this is unprecedented. But in terms of making his stop, he's going to come out here, Juan Costa, around Jan Hoffman, Blake Haswell sort of levels. He shouldn't fall too far back to Jose Serpa, I wouldn't have thought, but he'll be somewhere in and around that mix as Andrew Joyce has gone off once again. He's 3 laps down, and he's had a spin out of turn 3.
Yeah, Joyce not having too good of a run. He's already had to pit more than once as well for losing his front wing earlier on, but regardless, he's trying to get around and just trying to do some laps as Costa's finally come in.
End of lap 42. That was the absolute limit on the fuel, and Juan Costa will find himself to his box. It'll be the 7th last box on the way through towards the start-finish line, which is just in front of him as he hits his marks. He will go up on the jacks, he will get tyres, he will get fuel, he'll be pulled down off of the jacks, and he will be off and away. This is going to be close, though. Through has gone Nyok can't win, and there through goes Hoffman, so he will be behind Jan Hoffman, but crucially, he should be ahead of Blake Haswell. He falls right in the middle.
Certainly does, and quite fascinating that he's actually ended up in the middle of that. So really hasn't lost too badly, but has lost a little bit of time. So we'll see what happens here between himself and Haswell, and Haswell on a bit of a recovery here after that spin earlier on.
Here's a big battle 1 lap down. This is Marco Sanfilippo in 14th place, trying to get past Steve Giori here for 13th. And you're talking about lucky or unlucky numbers. That would pretty much sum up Marco Sanfilippo's day. It's been very unlucky if he finishes in 13th place. He's not a million miles away from Edu Villa, but he knows he's starting to run out of time here as Giori goes far too deep through turn 1, trying to diamond the corner off. And Marco Sanfilippo immediately trying to pull alongside to the outside of turn 3. He tries to make the move, and he's going to have to do it again at turn 4, but there's no traction on the exit for Giori. Sweeping around goes Marco Sanfilippo.
Yeah, another position recovered for Marco after having not such a great start to this race as well. And Eddie Villa's made a mistake just up the road. So if Sanfilippo could just stay consistent and keep this pace up, he should be able to recover 1 more position and move up into 12th.
It looked for a moment as well like his brother Danilo maybe had a look and a run at 2nd place, but that has suddenly been shut down through turn 10 with that aero dependency that these vehicles have, that high aero dependency, that wash effect coming in. Again, struggling, and there's Danilo running wide at turn number 1, missing his braking point slightly out there on the right-hand side on the dirty part of the circuit, and then he very nearly made a hash brown out of things. But He keeps it going. He stays within a good range, but one of the most compliant bits of lap traffic I've ever seen is Robert Plumley, because he knows how to be lap traffic.
Yeah, he's got well out of the way there of the two leading cars coming by of Chris Owen and Danilo Sanfilippo. So good driving there, and heads-up driving as well by Robert Plumley. But regardless, Sanfilippo really trying everything he possibly can to hunt down Chris Owen, and then his brother really pushing hard to try and hunt down Eddie Villa as well for 12th.
It is worth noting that despite that big incident that happened to Nicholas Short after he hit the wall, he is still here, Cam, inside the top 10 in 10th place.
Yeah, he actually is. So he's done reasonably well to not lose out too much after that incident. And Strutinsky's actually not that far up the road either, and a little bit slower as well. So if Short can keep the pace up that he's got, he should be able to find another position.
And another position could be key. Look at Juanmi Costa, though. Absolutely flying right now. He took a full 7/10 of a second out of Jan Hoffman that last lap through, and he could very easily make a move here because the traffic in front is Nyok Khan Win, and Nyok Khan Win moves out of the way. But look at the run now that Juanmi Costa is going to have on the run to the Andretti hairpin. He looks, which way do I go? He ends up having to choose the outside to get it done. So much later on the brakes as he goes through the Andretti hairpin. Can't close the door just yet, but he does get the move sorted.
Really, really good move there by Costa to go around the outside at the hairpin on Hoffman's. Those new tyres really playing into Costa's race here to recover a position or two.
Marco's around.
Way through, and Marco is around.
He's around down at the corkscrew, and that pretty much just puts a death knell in the coffin for how his performance was. He goes through, just gets himself trying to keep the car straight. The car wants to go around, and he is going to retire the vehicle. So Marco Sanfilippo, a non-finish here today. Same will be said now for Andrew Joyce, who's gone around and has probably hit 25 incidents by this point in time. A disaster for two drivers in the very same section as they went through. So now you start looking around and saying, well, there's one drop round gone for Marco, and he's got 3 more that he will be clinging on to for the remainder of this season.
Hoffman's coming back on Costa here with that mistake just before. So Hoffman really starting to put the pressure back on to Costa, who possibly has run into some issues.
Well, he's just about finding himself back at it again, so Juanmi Costa will try and bridge a gap as much as he can. He knows it's 16 seconds to Clayton McLeod, so unless Clayton has a big moment, then there's going to be no changes for position overall, and that's going to be key in terms of the way this race is run. We are with 10 laps to go here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Mark Usher leads by 11.5 seconds over Chris Owen at this point in time, and Mark Usher has once again been a cut above the rest.
He certainly has. He's put it on pole, done the fastest lap, done everything he needs to, had really good consistent pace, and he's just proving that he's one of the title contenders this season, and is definitely putting the gauntlet down to say, hey, I'm here, let's play.
But the last lap was slow, so maybe he is starting to dial it down. It's a 105.6 from Mark Usher that last lap through. So I wonder if we are going to be able to see exactly what's happening. Oh, he did. He ran wide at turn 10. He got the curb on the inside as he went through. He got a slide. He saved it. Magical save. But yeah, he did have a moment with a 105, but he's back with a 102.3. Pretty much saying there's no mistakes there. 7/10 quicker than Chris Owen as he goes through, and I believe we've just seen it here on stream. We have. It was a magical save brought to you by Motum Simulations.
Yeah, he was very lucky that it actually didn't snap back at him and spit him into that outside wall. So really lucky to actually get away with that and possibly not end up with any damage. But yeah, not the mistake you really want to be making at this point in the race, especially with only a handful of laps to go.
And with a handful of laps to go, Chris Owen is starting to look behind once again because Danilo Sanfilippo took half a second out of him that last time by pulling the gap back down to 0.8 of a second, and it looks closer than that this time. Great run through turn 9, but again, the dirty air through 10, making life tough for Danilo as he hits the brakes into 11, trying to find a way past Chris Owen, who desperately wants to hold on to this second place finish here as they start their 50th lap of this one, but lap 49 was a golden one for Mark Usher. A 102.1 goes purple once again, but Chris Owen now has to defend again from Danilo Sanfilippo for the podium.
Yeah, Chris Owen has got a lot of pressure coming on from Danilo Sanfilippo behind him, and Filippo really trying everything he possibly can. He's throwing everything plus the kitchen sink at it to try and find a way past Chris Owen.
Oh, Giori
can't quite get it.
Well, look at this battle. 12th, 13th, 14th at the moment. Edu Villa, Steve Giori, and Adam Webb is on the back of it at the moment. And Giori trying to deal with this one at the moment. Adam Webb, who has been quietly consistent through this race, may have 2 positions come the end if he can just find a way through. Struggling to find a way past Steve Giori, who's not making life much easier, not by his own accord.
It certainly is. Giori having a few technical issues at the moment, so does not want to run into any major ones that are detrimental to his race. But Adam Webb with a big move and a big lockup as well into the top of the corkscrew. Tried for a move, but
around.
Was not close enough and around.
Yeah, and around at the bottom, so got it wrong at the start, got it wrong at the bottom. It was a horrible corkscrew through that section, but look at this, second and third, split by 0.4 of a second to half a second now. Danilo Sanfilippo looking still for a way through here in this race over Chris Owen, but he just still cannot find anything to work, and they're running out of time. When they cross the line, they'll start lap 52 and 57. They will have 6 laps to try and get a move, and there's a good run up the hill from Danilo, who closes right up to the rear wing. Through down at the corkscrew, takes a nice big chunk of curb with him as well as he goes through. Chris Owen's going to have to defend here into turn 2.
Yeah, possibly will at this rate that Filippo is going, but nevertheless, there is certainly a lot of good driving going on between these two. The battle of it all race long, but nothing in it at the moment. Last time by, it was only 0.003 of a second. Chris Owen slightly slower as well this time by as well.
Yeah, just more proof to the pudding that Danilo Sanfilippo has pace, and he wants to prove it by making a way through, and he just cannot at this moment in time. Also keep an eye on Blake Hasler in the final stages of this race. He's trying to close down Jan Hoffman. He's got the gap back down to about 2.7 seconds. That gap could close come the end of this one. Traffic gets out of the way. That was Nyotkan Win getting himself out of the way there in terms of this one, as we see more drivers trying to make their progress here through this field. But Danilo Sanfilippo, oh, Owen goes wide. Owen goes wide through the corkscrew. Here's the chance. Danilo down to the inside. Oh, he's forced a way through. Chris Owen had nothing for it there as they went through. Danilo gets second.
Great move there by Sanfilippo to get the job done and put it into a gap that nearly didn't exist. So
it's not over.
Sanfilippo getting the job done, but Owen's got the draft here down the front straight, and it's going to be drag race down into turn 1. Owen around the outside, but not quite late enough on the brakes.
Up and under
to the inside.
He's going to try and get it, and wide goes Sanfilippo, and Chris Owen gets his reward back. How have they not come together through that section? Wonderful moves between the two.
Yeah, these two are definitely leaving nothing on the table, going toe-to-toe. Only 4 laps to go this time by, and replay on screen of the whole lot, because that was just magical.
Well, this is where it all went wrong for Chris Owen to begin with, because he got himself there at the corkscrew. On the brakes he goes, locks up the front, turns it too deep, and all of a sudden finds himself slow. Then Danilo Sanfilippo dives for the inside. Chris Owen lets him have it, but the run has to go all the way here on board with Chris Owen as they head all the way towards the final corners and then over towards turn 1 and turn 2. And it was that up and under, that crisscross cam, which made everything happen.
Yeah, it certainly has. And Sanfilippo's also made a mistake at the corkscrew and hit the wall.
Wow. So Sanfilippo making another issue, and that was all on his own as well. So we've got to look at this as well after this. He goes down the hill, car snaps away from him, and he finds the tyres. He's able to drive it away, but crucially, he remains in 3rd place. He's got 13 seconds to Clayton McLeod at this point in time. We've got it on screen for you. So Danilo Sanfilippo, oh, there you can see it. Whoop, round you go, and there goes the 2nd place scrap.
Certainly unfortunate for Danilo Sanfilippo to end up losing that 2nd place, which he so could have nearly had, but Giori has got his hands full at the moment, trying to get ahead of Edu Villa, who's just in front of him and possibly sniff that 12th place position.
Well, that 12th place could mean a lot to Steve Giori, who's been pushing hard today. He's up 7 places. Edu Villa's up 6 of his own. Both of them having good drives here today at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, but with just 4 laps of their race to go, which will actually be 3 because they're a lap down, the pair of them, it seems that Steve Giori here is just a little bit too far back on an Edu Villa who is staying just consistent enough.
Yeah, he certainly is. Edu Villa's made a few errors in this race, but at the moment he's coming under a lot of pressure and doing a good job of dealing with it for the time being against the car of Steve Giori. But Giori is not going to let this one go easy. He's going to try everything he possibly can to see if he can gain this position, but Edu Villa's probably not going to make it too easy for him.
No, he certainly isn't, and that's going to be the key here. Edu Villa is just keeping him at an arm's distance. A 1:03.6 was 0.4 of a second almost quicker that last time by, so he's actually starting to stretch his legs ever so slightly in this little scrap, and that's going to be the key for the way this race is going to be run. Just behind that, though, Jan Hoffman, Blake Haswell, we've been keeping an eye out on it. It's down to 2 seconds, but I think old father time is going to run out here for Blake Haswell.
I'd say so. There's not too many laps remaining. They're on lap 56 now of 57, so only 2 to go this time by in 2 seconds. Don't think that's going to be closed in within 2 laps.
Well, 2 seconds and 2 laps means so much for this. Giori with a good run here, Cam, may have a shot here into turn 1 if he can just get it close enough.
He certainly will. Not quite strong on the brakes, but a mistake from Villa, and it's going to leave the door open for Giori, but didn't quite capitalize completely on that mistake. But he's in the draft of Edu Villa at the moment as they head down towards turn 1, looking around the outside, very late on the brakes, looks for the cutback, not quite close enough to do that.
No, definitely no confidence there from Giori to try it on Edu Villa. Very content to stay behind as the white flag lap starts for Mark Usher here, who leads this race. He is car number 1 in this field. He has the highest I rating of anybody here today. He has led every single lap of this race. He has the fastest lap today in this race, and he started, of course, from pole position. What you could say is this has been a grand slam drive from Mark Usher at the moment, who is yet to be challenged. He has had issues on last laps before. Imola at the start of the season will be putting a little bit of doubt into the mind as they go through, but there are no real worries as this race does continue, and it seems like Steve Giori right now has gone miles through on Edu Villa, who's made a mistake. We'll catch that after this race completes. But for Mark Usher, who comes through turn 10, who looks at turn 11, he knows he has been faultless for 2 straight races. Mark Usher decimates the field at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, fantastic drive by Mark Usher, and also fantastic drive by Chris Owen to come home in second. If he didn't wake up earlier on, he'll definitely be awake now, because he'll be absolutely stoked with a second place finish. He's actually short shifting, so I'm possibly wondering if he's actually run out of fuel here.
Out. He was out. That's going to be a tough challenge for him. Mark Usher broke the 102 barrier on that last lap as well. Very Sebastian Vettel-esque on that final lap. Danilo Sanfilippo, he knows that he could have had it if he just kept it on the island. It was a great challenge, but ultimately he's cruised home come the end with Clayton McLeod. A very solid 4th place for him overall. Good battles have come along up and down the field, but let's catch what happened to Edu Villa on the penultimate lap of his race, because he cost himself a whole bunch of time earlier on, and he very much just went wide at turn number 3, I do believe it was, and that was what gave Steve Giori the position.
Yeah, it certainly was. A slight mistake by Edu Villa to just end up running a little bit wide at turn 3, which was really unfortunate for Edu Villa, as he could have had that position held very nicely, but just that small mistake of running a little wide just cost him.
Well, you're going to see on board from him right now as he heads through the right of 10 into turn 11 to end the lap. He was under pressure very, very heavily from Steve Giori. You can see he closes right up behind Steve as he tries to push himself close, but you can see just how Edu Villa was just able to maintain that gap, manage that gap down into turn number 1. You can see no real worries through that section, but it's turn 3 where it goes wrong. Here as he looks to go through on the brakes, he goes into the right, carries too much speed, and that is where pressure tells, Cam.
Yeah, it certainly does. And very, very hard battle that was in those last few laps. But at the end of the day, Giori got the job done and moved into 12th.
Well, let's get ourselves then official classified results. They are up on your screen for you. Mark Usher takes the victory in a total time of 1 hour and 16 seconds, and he wins by 19 seconds come the end over Chris Owen in second position. Third would go to Danilo Sanfilippo, but he found the tyres at the corkscrew. His opportunity could have been a little bit better well off. Clayton McLeod picks up fourth with Juanmi Costa rounding out a top 5. Jan Hoffman and Blake Haswell make it only 7 drivers to finish on the leading lap. 7th place for him with Jose Serpa, first of those laps down in 8th place after he had to pit 1 extra time. Jan Stratinsky finishes off with a very quiet 9th place, and after finding the wall himself, Nicholas Short is able to recover for a top 10.
And just outside the top 10, Thomas Zen, followed by Steve Giori after a pretty interesting race for those two, as well as Edo Villa in 13th. 14th, Adam Webb, Not Kan Yen in 15th, Will Pullman 16th, Robert Plumley manages to somehow recover to 17th, so not bad of a recovery considering he started 27th. Marco Sanfilippo will be very, very much disappointed after starting second and ending up 18th. Stephen Chantal is well disappointed with a 19th place, and Andrew Joyce rounding up the top 20.
Well, there was only 17 finishers. This is very much retirement central for the likes of Kyle Streichars and Jordan Sinibaldi. John Pat Kelly will be in that list, as well as Adam Novak, who made life difficult for more drivers than one. Ray Griffioen out very early as on the opening laps. David Cudmore and Robert Vita both found themselves in with retirements in this race. But what we can do for you, though, as we head to post-race coverage, is we've got Chris Owen here waiting and stood by here with Cam Dance.
Well, Chris, P2, you definitely can't be displeased with that result after not too good of runs in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, this round wasn't even, I wasn't too happy with this one either. I just couldn't get comfortable with the car at all. So to walk away with second, no complaints there.
Well, certainly you had to deal with a lot of pressure from Danilo over the course of the race, but you seemed to manage it quite well. And obviously the pit stop really did shake things up a little bit, and you just managed to jump him. Did you think it was going to be as close as it was, or did you think you were going to have more of a advantage than you did?
I thought he was going to completely jump me in the pits. I was losing a second a lap, and he must have made a mistake somewhere, because when I got out, when I went past the start and finish and saw him, I was just like, okay, no worries, I'm going to go for it. So I went for it and managed to stay ahead.
Well, certainly with Circuit Gilles Villeneuve up next at Montreal for a full distance race. You're looking forward to, and what do you think is going to play out there? With obviously being a full distance race, it's a lot longer and really going to matter about strategy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's more than likely going to be a 2-stopper. It's just, as this one, you just got to keep cool and stay off the wall, stay out of the grass, and you should be good, I guess.
Well, certainly very, very much about staying out of that wall. But before we let you go, just any thanks to sponsors, anything like that?
Just the team as always, Rival Autosport, HRS obviously, always their packages are just awesome. So other than that, and you guys, thanks for broadcasting, and thanks again. See you next week.
Well, there you have it, Sperry. Chris Owen, pretty pleased with the second place position, and looking forward to Montreal clearly.
Yeah, Montreal is going to be key. It's one of only 2 rounds in this championship, which are going to be full-length distance for the whole 300 kilometers that go around the race. 70 laps at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. There is nothing more that I can't wait for, but you'll have to wait one more week here on SimSpeed TV. Everything is going to be all about how that will become key. But of course, a massive thanks has to go to those who get it done for us here today. Of course, Motum Simulations have been massive on the replays for us. Jay Kennedy has been on cameras. Cam Dance has been beside me, and I, of course, have been Jake Sperry. A grand slam at Weathertech Raceway for Mark Usher. He has absolutely monstered away from the field, and he has set himself one cut apart from everybody else when it comes to this racing. There's no guarantees, but Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is a true test for champions. We'll see you in 1 week's time over in Montreal.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him.
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Sec's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go.
Oh no!
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my god.
God, what?